Hey Urbana, we just got done with the Urbana 15 design team, and I'm actually sitting down now with the brains behind serving 16,000 participants here at Urbana Communion. So many of you here at the conference experienced that service last night. Some of you at home maybe have been to Urbanas before and you know what that's like. And as that was happening in my mind, I was thinking like, oh my gosh, like how does this work? And I think some of you were asking the same questions. So I've decided to sit down with Jackie Andrada, and she is going to walk us through a little bit of what that process has looked like. So let's see. Eric is saying, hey, Jackie. It's Eric in San Diego. So he's saying hi, Jackie. Yeah, so I'm joined with Jackie. Jackie, can you tell us where you're from and what you do?
I am from San Diego, and I'm on staff currently at San Diego State.
Excellent. And friends, as you're joining us, feel free to chime in with questions or to say hello to Jackie. That's all fair game. So, yeah. So, Jackie, you've never done this before.
Nope, it's my first time.
Your first time.
Yes.
Okay. So, when you were asked to lead this process, getting 16,000 people communion at Urbana, what was your first thought, or explain to us your emotional world?
Well, first of all, I was only asked maybe 2 or 3 months ago to do this,
so
it's not like I had a lot of time to think about this. But I think my first thought was, how is it even possible to serve 16,000 people and in a way that we've never done it before?
Yes.
And so if you've been at Urbana before, we usually hand out the elements all over the dome, but this time everyone's coming towards the elements. So doing something different is always an adventure, and you never know what's going to happen. So,
for sure. Yeah. And it's not like you've had prior practice, right? So it's like it's a
I don't
one.
think I've ever served communion before. So
it's a one and done type of thing.
Yeah.
So great. Well, can you help us walk us through the planning process, or as you ask the question, how is it even possible? Well, you made it possible.
Yes.
So what were some of the maybe planning wins or difficulties as you started to think about how to serve communion?
Yeah, so I think the first thing was just knowing how many people we were going to serve. And so 16,000 people is a lot, and people sit all over the dome.
Yeah.
And so one of the things, it was trying to figure out where people were going to sit. And so I was just trying to get a good gauge, are people going to sit in the left, the right, the floor? It's just, you don't want to put too many wafers all over the place. And so every night here at Urbana, we would walk around the dome and try to figure out, okay, this is where we expect people to sit. But even before that, it was counting seats. It was in little diagrams and stuff. A lot of math. I didn't know I would have to do so much math and trying to figure this out.
Did you study math at all?
I did. I did take math in college, but I didn't study it full time. And also knowing how many wafers to purchase, knowing how much juice to purchase. That was an interesting thing. So I actually dipped 500 wafers myself to see how much juice would be taken up by a section.
Oh my God.
So it took me probably 20-30 minutes to dip 500 wafers by myself, but I just need to know just how much it would take, and it takes half a cup actually.
Half a cup.
Half a cup of juice
500
for
wafers.
500 wafers.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yes.
So how much juice and wafers did you order?
We ordered about 20,000 wafers, with gluten.
Okay.
And about maybe 2,000 to 4,000 gluten-free wafers.
Okay.
And maybe, I don't even know how many, 800 ounces of juice.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't even know what 800 ounces of juice looks like.
It's 14 big bottles of juice.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so you did some planning then before, but then
Yeah.
you were mentioning you're also every night trying to plan
Yeah.
on the fly. So as you guys were noticing where people were sitting in the dome, things like that, how were you changing or making your plans for the actual final night?
So the way that we did it was the places where people were sitting more often, we would place more wafers in those places and less wafers and juice in the other places, just so that we didn't waste as much stuff. But also, it's just making sure that we also had enough officiants per place. Because with my math, which I'm not very good at, it takes about 2 pairs of officiants. If they can do 400 people in like 32 minutes. So that was like what I was gauging. And so if it got too big, then I knew I would have to add more officiants, but if it got too small, then it would just run faster.
Sure.
And so that was like the average. So I was hoping to get that all around the dome.
Okay, yeah. And how many officiants did you have serving?
Yes, I had 104 officiants serving that night.
So someone who could do math better than you or I probably could tell us right now what how many people that equates to. So great. So did you have any like specific like goals, or like as you thought about this process, like what is like as the leader of it, what did you want to have happen? Yeah,
I think, well, the first thing, I wanted communion to be just a reverent moment. I think I've been in some places where communion is not like, sometimes it's not a reverent place. And I didn't want that to be like this at Urbana. I want it to be just a place where we respect the Lord, where we understand what that time is about. And so I want it to be just a very somber and reverent moment for like the whole of Urbana. But I also wanted it to also run very efficiently, so as fast as it possibly could. So my hope was to run it less than 35 minutes. They gave me 40 minutes because they didn't believe I could do it, but it ran in 32 minutes, which is awesome.
Wow, that is awesome. Yeah, that's great. Cool. And so, what was my question? 32 minutes, 16,000 people. Was there any, like, as you were leading the process, as the time started, like, give us a window into, like, your feelings, your emotional world then, like.
Like in the dome? Or, I think I was super nervous because, like, I had two main teams that I was running. So one, well, not I wasn't running personally, but the crowd control. So it was like a whole bunch of people that made it happen. So the crowd control team, they're the people that were ushering people, and then my team, the communion team, were just making sure everything was running correctly. And so I felt like I had delegated everything and I had nothing to do. Like right before, which is like awesome, but then it's very nervous to like feel like you have nothing to do and are a little useless. But then people were telling me that's the best like way that you should feel. That means that you did your job. And so I was a little nervous, but I felt kind of useless as well, that I've done all this planning for months for these 30 to 40 minutes, and there was nothing else I could do but let it just run and hope that it ran well. So
excellent. And as things started, and you were, I'm assuming, in the dome watching things unfold, what were you thinking or feeling then?
I think as things started, my mind was just thinking, I hope the first person that's released will follow the directions. Because kind of how like my mentality was, if the first person does the right thing and follows like the directions, then everyone else will follow. But then there's a few places I saw people didn't follow, and then they just kind of led people astray, and I was a little worried, but in the end, it all worked out. And so, like, ultimately, as I was watching it unfold, I think I was just in awe of, like, what God was doing, and just that moment, and all this planning. I just forgot of all the planning at that moment. It was like, okay, God is doing something in everyone, and this is just a great moment, and I was just proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. Have you been able to hear like any like stories from the participants, or even you and your team, like after it was all done? Like, did you guys? I would have celebrated. And what did that look like for you? Like the satisfaction.
I heard a few people that they loved the communion part, and a lot of people are like, we can't believe that you did it. 16,000 people in 32 minutes. That's crazy. And I was reading some tweets of like, it was like an engineering marvel or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's great. I should have been an engineer instead of whatever. Like, I don't know. But then I was talking to some officiants also, and for them, like it was like an emotional moment, like feeding and giving out the body and blood of Jesus. Some of them were like coming to tears, doing it over and over and remembering what this moment was for. And so for the people that were receiving it, and also for the people that were giving it out, it was just a reverent and awe-inspiring moment, I think.
Well, even for me, walking into the dome and being served and just standing there, being able to just in silence, just watching what was going on. It was, reverent, I think, is the best word that comes to mind. It felt like a very holy moment. And it's not very often where someone can say, I've had communion with 16,000 other people.
It's true.
And so that was just, it was a beautiful experience. So Jackie, what then has this whole process like meant for you, and how has it impacted you? Maybe things that you've learned, things that you want to remember and take home with you.
Yeah, I think one thing, I love running stuff like this. I think I learned, which is crazy.
That's great.
People are like, well, why would you ever do something like this? But for me, I'm like, I love running big things and things that have a lot of details. Even math, I guess I could do that too. But I just love doing this kind of stuff, and I just love serving people. And so, like, whatever ways that I can serve Urbana, serve the church, serve the body of Christ, I think, even if I'm like behind the scenes and no one sees me, it doesn't matter, because ultimately people are experiencing God. And so I'm taking kind of that away from this experience, because people don't know like who runs communion, but I don't care. Like it got done and people met the Lord, and that's all that I care about.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Urbana 18,
Oh my God.
communion, what is that? Would you be open to that? Would you be excited about that? Or would you like to work on like another big project that's maybe a little bit different?
I would be open to doing a communion again. Maybe something in addition to communion, now that we've kind of figured it out.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, well, Blind Faith 21 just said communion was awesome last night. So another affirmation of your hard work, Jackie.
Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Jackie. For your hard work, for serving Urbana well. 16,000 people were very blessed last night because of your planning and your hard work. So thanks so much for doing that for us. It was really fun to be a part of. All right, Periscopers. Well, this is Brittany, and just got finished talking with Jackie, the brains behind communion last night. Hopefully you learned something. I know I did. I didn't know that 500 wafers would go through a half of a glass, was it, of juice? Half a cup of juice. So if you're ever thinking about serving communion for large groups of people, keep that stat in mind. Stay in tune to Periscope today, and our pregame show that starts at 6:45 today. And I think stay tuned for Brad and Andy. They're all around Urbana today, this afternoon, getting some behind-the-scenes looks at various aspects of our last day. So thanks, Periscopers, for staying tuned. Share it. If you're an Android user, swipe up. If you're an iOS user, swipe to the right. Tell your friends, invite them along, and helping us make our Urbana experience a little bit smaller. And thanks, Blind Faith. It's been fun to see you sign on every Periscope. You're so faithful. Thank you. We'll sign off and catch us later, friends. See you later.